The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and in stepped a young CEO, his designer suit pressed to perfection, his Rolex glinting under the golden lights. Standing inside already was a janitor, a black man in a faded uniform, holding a mop and bucket. The CEO's lips curled into a smirk. He chuckled to himself, then laughed louder. "Unbelievable," he muttered. "A janitor in this building? Don't you know people like you don't belong here?" His words cut through the silence, arrogant and sharp. The janitor didn't flinch. He simply adjusted his grip on the mop and kept his calm, his eyes steady. But the CEO wasn't done. He leaned back against the mirrored wall, straightening his tie. "You know who I am? I run companies worth millions. With just one phone call, I could erase your job, your future, everything. That's the kind of power I hold." The janitor finally lifted his gaze, a faint smile playing on his lips. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and whispered, "One phone call, huh? Let me show you what real power looks like." The young CEO's name was Daniel Carter. Barely in his early 30s, he wore his arrogance like a crown. He wasn't born rich, but after a streak of lucky investments in a tech startup that had recently gone public, he thought of himself as untouchable. His expensive watch, polished shoes, and tailored suit were more than just clothing. They were his armor, his way of reminding the world that he had made it. For Daniel, success wasn't just about wealth. It was about superiority. He believed money gave him the right to look down on anyone who wasn't at his level. And today, the target of his contempt was the man holding a mop in the same elevator. The janitor stood quietly in the corner, his uniform slightly wrinkled, his dark hands firm on the wooden handle of the mop. He seemed ordinary, too ordinary for the shining marble floors and crystal chandeliers of the corporate tower. Daniel glanced at him again and sneered. "You know," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Guys like you are invisible. Nobody notices you. Nobody cares what you think. You're just background." Still, the janitor didn't respond. His silence only fueled Daniel's arrogance. He continued, "Look at me. I drive a Bentley, I live in a penthouse, and I own half this city. You? You probably live in some rundown apartment, scraping by on minimum wage. Tell me, does it hurt to stand next to someone so far above your league?" The janitor lifted his eyes for the first time. His gaze wasn't angry, but it carried a weight Daniel couldn't quite place. The faint smile on his lips remained, as though he knew something the CEO did not. The elevator hummed softly as it climbed, but inside, the air was heavy with tension. Daniel wasn't satisfied with silence. He wanted to crush the janitor with words. "You're lucky this building even lets you in," Daniel scoffed. "I could make one call, and you'd be out on the street by tonight. People like you, you're replaceable." He laughed, his voice echoing against the mirrored walls. He pulled out his phone, pretending to type. "See this? With just one message, I can end your career. That's what real power looks like." The janitor shifted slightly, his mop still resting against the corner. His expression remained calm, too calm. He wasn't intimidated. Instead, he looked almost amused. Daniel noticed it. "What?" he snapped. "You think this is funny? Do you even understand the kind of man you're talking to? I sit on boards worth billions. My name opens doors yours could never even knock on." The janitor finally spoke, his voice deep and steady. "You talk too much." Daniel froze for a second, caught off guard. Then he burst out laughing. "Oh, that's rich. A janitor telling me I talk too much. Do you even know who you're standing in front of?" The janitor slipped a phone from his pocket. With a calmness that seemed out of place, he pressed a single button and spoke just 2 words. "It's time." Daniel frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" The elevator dinged. The doors slid open, revealing the top executive floor. What happened next would shatter Daniel's illusion of power forever. The doors of the elevator slid open with a crisp chime, but instead of the usual quiet hallway, there was movement, swift, organized, and deliberate. 2 security guards in black suits marched in immediately. Their eyes didn't even flicker toward Daniel. Instead, they stood straight and saluted the janitor. "Sir, we've been expecting you," one of them said firmly. Daniel's jaw dropped. He blinked rapidly, certain he had misheard. "Sir?" Who were they talking to? He turned his head toward the janitor, who still held his mop in one hand and his phone in the other. "Escort him," the janitor ordered calmly, pointing at Daniel. The guards didn't hesitate. Within seconds, Daniel's arms were seized. His expensive phone was plucked out of his hand like it was nothing. Hey, what is this? Daniel shouted, struggling against their grip. Do you know who I am? I'm Daniel Carter, CEO of Carter Tech. This has to be some mistake. The janitor stepped out of the elevator slowly, his polished shoes now catching Daniel's attention for the first time. They weren't the cheap work shoes he had assumed. They were Italian leather, subtle but unmistakably expensive. Bring him, the janitor said, ignoring Daniel's protests. Dragged into the executive lounge, Daniel's panic grew. This wasn't how things worked. He was the one who gave orders, not the one who got hauled around like a criminal. Finally, he snapped. This is insane. You can't do this to me. I could buy and sell 100 people like you. The janitor turned, his eyes sharp now, the playful smile gone. He placed the mop gently against the wall and straightened his suit jacket, revealing a platinum lapel pin shaped like a falcon, the unmistakable emblem of Falcon Enterprises, the trillion-dollar conglomerate that secretly owned half the corporations in the city. Recognition dawned on Daniel's face. His voice cracked. No, no way. The janitor's lips curved again, but this time the smile was razor-sharp. You wanted to know who I am? He said softly. I'm the man who owns you. Daniel's world tilted. The man he mocked wasn't a janitor at all. He was the real billionaire boss. Daniel's knees weakened as the weight of the revelation sank in. He stammered, This isn't possible. You were holding a mop? You were dressed like staff. The janitor took a step closer, his eyes locked on Daniel's. His voice was calm, but every word carried thunder. Power doesn't need to wear a suit, Daniel. Sometimes it tests the arrogance of men who think they're untouchable. Daniel shook his head violently. No, I built this company. I'm the CEO. I have power. Correction. The billionaire interrupted, raising a hand. You had power, and you wasted it. He gestured, and one of the guards handed him a sleek folder. Opening it, the billionaire revealed documents, contracts, termination letters, and most damning of all, evidence of Daniel's corruption. Bribes, insider trading, lavish parties billed under company expenses. Daniel's face turned pale. Where did you get those? I own everything you touch, the billionaire replied coldly. Every email you send, every call you make, every penny you spend. I see it all. Did you really think a child playing CEO could hide from me? Daniel's heart pounded. He fell to his knees. Please, I didn't mean what I said. I thought you were just what? The billionaire snapped, his voice rising for the first time. Just a janitor? Just a black man with a mop? That's what you saw. That's all you could see. And for that blindness, you've lost everything. He turned to the guards. Effective immediately, strip him of his position. Freeze his accounts. Remove him from this building. The guards responded instantly. Daniel screamed as his company badge was ripped from his pocket, his phone shattered under a boot. You can't do this, he shouted desperately. This company needs me. The billionaire leaned down, lowering his voice until it was almost a whisper. No, Daniel. This company needs leaders, not bullies. And as of this moment, you're nothing. Daniel's last sight before being dragged out was the billionaire lifting the mop again, smiling faintly, as though to remind him that appearances had fooled him and cost him everything. The echoes of Daniel's protests faded down the long marble hallway as the guards escorted him out of the building. For the first time in his life, the young CEO wasn't being followed by admiration or applause, only silence, whispers, and shame. Inside the executive lounge, the billionaire stood tall, the mop once again in his hand. An assistant approached nervously. Sir, why do you still do this? Pretend to be a janitor. The billionaire's expression softened. Because true power isn't about titles or suits. It's about vision. When I walk these halls dressed as a janitor, I see people for who they really are. Some treat me with kindness. Others, like Daniel, reveal their arrogance. That tells me everything I need to know about their character. He placed the mop gently in the closet, closing the door as though sealing the lesson inside. Moments later, a group of executives entered, bowing respectfully. Sir, the board is ready for your instructions. The billionaire smiled faintly. Then let's get to work. Daniel may have lost his empire, but this company will rise stronger, led by those who value respect over pride. Outside, Daniel stood on the street, humiliated, stripped of his title, his accounts frozen, his name already trending in the news for all the wrong reasons. For years, he thought he was untouchable. In a single elevator ride, he discovered just how fragile his throne really was. And high above, from the penthouse office, the billionaire looked out over the city skyline, his voice low but firm. Arrogance destroys. Respect builds. That's the difference between a pretender and a true leader. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments below.